GBGz Gunners Collective TV. Back at it, you already know. Like a motherfucking trap addict. Bye up, bye up, bye. Look, in a menudo style of direct fashion, we're going to get straight into the content of the day. But before we do, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content I am kicking. And I highly appreciate all the support I'm getting, man. We're going up and it's all because of you. I appreciate that. Thank you. So, I did a video the other day about Danny fucking Raperson, right? Or Masterson, excuse me. Sometimes I be getting his name mixed up a little bit. According to what his jacket, right? So, I mentioned the GBGz. And a lot of people, it was an abundance of people didn't even know who the GBGz were. Or asked a lot of questions. Are they real? For reals though? What's their initiation? How do I sign up? There was all kinds of different questions that were asked. And I was like, wow. Let me explain this. Let me explain the establishment of the GBGz, who they are, what they're comprised of, and everything that I've heard. Because I don't know these guys personally, okay? It's not like I was on the yard kicking it with these guys and trying to get an understanding of just what their initiation practices are. But I've heard a lot, right? And there's a lot I can tell you because I've done my history and homework. Before I speak, I'm going to tell you right now, they're a little different, okay? Would I say odd? Not in this day and age, not in this era. I guess, you could adjust to the fact that they're there. They're established and they're going to continue to be established and they're going to do what they do. So as far as the initiation practices go, I think in order to get a good understanding of how you get initiated into that particular, excuse me, I can't even speak. The methods are all fucking... To get into the particular gang, you would have to ask a chola of the 90s, right? They can pretty much closely identify with the jumping in process. Okay, whether it be a train or, putting fists and fingertips on you. I can't call it like an alcoholic. I heard that they go through all different types of hazing processes and initiation processes. But as far as, a chola of the 90s, I'm sure she can give you the full rundown. So, who are these guys? Who are the GBGz, right? Also known as the gay boy gangsters. There's no way. It can't be true, right? There's no way that there's a prison gang in California known as the GBGz. But quietly as it's kept, they're not only in California. They have now spread to other states. There's now people mimicking or copying them. They say imitation is the best form of flattery. Well, I think flattery and imitation goes well with that prison gang, that particular gang, right? They were established in the 2000s. And I believe they were established for the same thing any other gang was established for, and that was for self-preservation and protection. You see, most of these old school prison gangs that were formed in California, and I'm going to speak on California as far as what I know, and then we'll go into other states, but a lot of these groups or gangs or gaggles of men were formed out of protection because back in the 60s and 70s, there was a lot going on politically on them yards. There wasn't very many prison gangs, and those that were in power and were doing their thing were, of course, extorting people, taking advantage of them, and pushing their weight around. And why not? When you got a group of friends that are of the like-mindedness on the same page and you have power, why not fucking push these other guys that are just solo bolo around? So it got to a point where people were going into the prison system, and if you didn't know anybody, you didn't know what was really going on, there was these predators or these grown men that were going to take advantage of you, whether it be sexually, extort you, take all your cantina, whatever it was happening, man. Vatos were applying pressure. And why? Because they could. Because I can. And that's why. And I think the bullying tactics and what was going on is pretty prevalent in what's going on today. And is the reason why a lot of these different dropout gangs as well as big group organizations were established. It's because people get tired of the same old shit. You could only fight if you're by yourself so many people before you get overwhelmed by sheer numbers. That's the program. That's how it goes. So it took many, many years for these guys that were on the same page to come together like ass cheeks, right? In the beginning, there were in the 60s, 70s, even as far as into the 80s, there were chirujos, or what you would call gay men, running around these prison yards on the main lines. Way back in the days, these guys were considered prison punks. There was a lot of them that were in there that were gay for the stay or got turned out. Okay? As far as what Danny Masterson was doing, the R word, you know, it happens in prisons. I know you all watch the movies and you expect it to, oh man, that youngster's going to go in there. They're going to clap his shit, right? It happens. Guard, does it happen? It does. But it doesn't happen as much as these movies portray it. Hollywood always likes to throw a funny scene in, right? The shit doesn't happen like that. Most of these guys transition into becoming that because it's for protection. They figure if they just latch onto one guy, Mark the Shark, everything's going to see all right, cuz, right? And so that's what a lot of people do, or they did back in them days. These guys came to an understanding that they wanted to do what they wanted to do. If they wanted to be gay on that yard, they were going to be gay. Now, somewhere along the line in the 90s, because gangbanging got so real and there was so much guerra going on and the prisons became very political as far as different groups, these guys were like outcasted or ostracized from these yards. It became to a point where prison gang members or any type of gang member would not function anymore with these guys on the yards because they seen these gentlemen as less than because they were gay or whatever the case may be. And you needed to understand that a lot of these guys that are from the GBGs now or that were going that route were some hardcore convict individuals, vatos that had been in and out of prison and had been doing their thing for a very long time on these yards, who had seen a lot of stuff, who had become desensitized to the prison politics and to the fucking shit that was going on, just like anyone else. The only difference between them and the next convict was they liked the hoop shit. That was warm, I guess, right? Whatever they like to do. So, them not being allowed on these yards, being pressured and eradicated from these yards, they started to be placed on protective custody yards. Okay, but a lot of these guys didn't consider themselves protective custody inmates. They didn't feel they had a sensitive need. They felt what they were doing was all natural. They felt like what they were doing was Grey Poupon. They were just getting their mustard on, right? So a lot of these guys decided to band together, to come together in certain different prisons where they were placed at to establish and hold it down. And they came up, just like everyone else came up with once placed on sensitive knee yards or protective custody yards, with names for groups and gangs. So at first, what started out as just a group of friends that like to fucking kiss and tell, right? They all decided to put a label on it. You know, maybe the CDC was the first one. Hey, those are the gay gangsters over there. The ones that still think they're gangsters and still think they're about that shit, but they're gay now. So they adapted that, and there you go, GBGz, right? Now, in the 2000s, they were the laughing stock of the prison system. But you don't laugh at grown men, especially guys that are criminals or gang members or people that were from somewhere at some point in time, because just like anyone else, they'll clap your shit. In fact, they rather enjoy it, right? These guys, a lot of them, and this is what a lot of people don't know, a lot of them come from established prison gangs, were once part of something, were Northerners, Southerners, Woods, Crips, Bloods. A lot of them were them guys. And somewhere along the line, fell into a mud hole, literally, right? Or some of them just decided that they were going to stop faking the funk and we're just going to be all out. Now, one thing about GBGz is their politics, from what I hear, is much different from, say, your average prison gang, where they're more into their gente and the protection of their people. These guys, yes, are into protecting their people, but they're also into the drama. It's more like a Chowchilla yard where the women are fighting over relationships and all that. These guys are pretty much doing the same thing. They just want to do their own program and be left alone. Now, as far as the GBGs go, you're not going to see them on the general population yards, on the 4 yards, on the 3 yards. It ain't going to happen because, again, like I said, somewhere along the line, the gang members transitioned over from not allowing chirujos or gays or guys that are trans to walk the yards. Just what it was. Vatos didn't want to be seen as less than for letting these guys walk the yards. Okay, one thing I hear about the GBGs is they're not in every single S and Y yard. They're not in every yard you go to because a lot of them have chosen to transition, have chosen to, go from man to woman, from woman to man, or whatever they're doing, right? So they're kept away from prisons that would be considered hot prisons, like Corcoran, different prisons that you go in. Corcoran's a hot motherfucker. You go out there, it's 140 degrees. There's certain prisons that are closer to deserts that get very warm and very hot. because these guys are taking the medications to fucking change, they keep them away and they try to keep them together. Now, I remember when I first heard about the GBGz, I said, ain't no fucking way. There's no way. But why isn't there a way? You know, that's just like if you go into San Francisco or these places that are heavily populated with gay communities, man, they're going to hold it down for theirs. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of these prisoners, they have an understanding that if you get beat up by a guy who's considered gay or has them tendencies to do that, you can never save face, homie. You can never be the same again. You might as well just join their ranks and get trained in, because if you decide to take, you know, one of these guys, a fade with one of these guys, a one-on-one situation, and you lose, well, imagine that. Your homies, you want to clap your cheeks on. Using that motherfucker like, that vato was banging your head out. Literally, right? Next thing you know, that vato comes into the fucking yard. You're like, hey, watch out, is that the homeboy Droopy? Nah, hey, he changed his name. What do they call him? That's the homeboy Aitu. Yeah, they call him Aitu, right? That's the homeboy. Because they were fucking beating him up in the cell. He was like, Aitu, stop it, right? So that's him. Without being funny, the GBGs are a real prison gang, okay? Albeit a dropout gang. People like to consider them a dropout gang. There are a lot of people that were from previous gangs that did drop out of those gangs, were whacked, removed, or whatever, that decided to become GBGs, but they're not punks. Or are they? Okay, they're punks in the old school prison terminology, but as far as men having fists and going for broke, they're not that. You know, you got to understand, a lot of these guys are old school convicts and have been around and have been through guerra, know what time it is, and will get with your program if you disrespect them. So I know about the year 2000s, 2010, from what I was hearing, they were rocking yards. They were hitting places and they were establishing. They needed their bars so they could do their dips. And they did. And they did, right from the hit. And in whatever was happening. You know, so a lot of people that prejudge them, and even myself in the past, man, I can't be a hypocrite. You know, when you hear GBGs, automatically laugh like, come on, bro. What kind of threat do these guys pose? They ain't gonna do nada. They're gonna bone you. That's the kind of threat they pose. If you decide to disrespect them and there's a gang of them, they're gonna do just like any other prison gang would do, only with a cherry on top. So they pop it, right? So who do they recruit? I don't know. You know, I can't get into their politics of who they decide is going to be a member. I think guys kind of just gravitate towards them and decide like, hey, that's what they want to do. You know, there's a lot of undercover brothers, man. There's a lot of people that are undercover in prison that are into that type of shit. Okay, I've told stories before, man, where vatos, you know, there was a homie, and I'm going to keep it real. He was a homie. He got to the yard, man. He was a cool-ass dude, and we used to function. Everything was good, right? And, you know, I was hearing whispers and stories about him. They were like, hey, did you... And vatos had come, you know, from Tracy. They'd come from reception. They'd be like, hey, did you hear about the homeboy right here? What's he doing over here? And like, what do you mean, eh? It was a 50-50 yard, so vatos could be wherever they want, right? What do you mean, bro? Right? They were like, yeah, bro, that fool was in fucking Tracy. Fucking, he boarded it up. Boarding it up means that the cops came to his cell to extract him because he didn't want to leave. They were like, yeah, hey, bro, they fucking tried to ship him out. And him and his cellie went all out with the cops, bro. They didn't want to be separated. Why? Because that was his old man. What? Right? I'm looking at the homeboy. The homeboy's over there playing handball, looking back at me like, hey, do you want to play? No, I don't want to play. Fuck that, right? I think this Vato's falling in love with me, eh? Right? You know? Then no wonder fucking he always gives me soft pass. Look, there was... And then come to find out that was the truth. You know, guys do different things for different reasons, whether they're in there for a long time and they decide, you know what, look, this is what it is. I'm never going to get to feel the touch of a woman or get to do any of that. So, you know, it is what it is. I'm going to be flamboyant with my shit. And that's one thing about the GBGs is they don't hide their sexuality on the yard and they don't hide who they are. They're proud of who they are. Ain't nothing wrong with being proud of your gang, your group, your homies. Who you really are inside, man. If anything, that's real man shit, I would say, to be who you are. You know, they always say, hey, just be who you are. Be yourself, right? Yeah, but their self, if you get sold up with one of them guys who's themselves, you might not walk like yourself anymore, right? So, you know, it's totally a thing or a situation where, you know, it's an oxymoron, right? So, Are these guys suckers, man? Or were they handling their business? Absolutely. You know, imagine going to the hole. What happened? I got fucked up, eh? Who got you? The who? Say it loud. What the fucking GBGz fucked me? Okay. Yeah, hey. Don't shoot the homie no care package. That's the way vatos feel. Once you're tainted or touched, you're tainted and touched. And they're going to just get away from you. And it's an unfortunate thing that people judge people of a different sexuality that way. I've never been like that. If you want to do you, eh? You know, just stay far away from me because Sasuke, there's really nothing for us to discuss. You know, our discussion will be disgusting and I don't need that in my life. That's just me. Doesn't mean what you're doing is wrong. It might stink, but it's not, has nothing to do with me. So, when I talked about Danny Masterson having this verde, this green light or pink light, like people are saying from the GBGz, people were like, why? Why would that particular group trip on him? Why would they have reasons to get him? You know, from what I heard, the part of religion or whatever, Danny, I don't even like to say it, man, because I don't know nothing about them to come fucking wear cloaks and cut my head off in the middle of the night. Them vatos, wherever he was from or representing this group, and I'll let you guys say it, it has to do with some type of science or something. They have a strong stance against homosexuality and that type of shit. So I would think that the GBGs feel some type of way like, okay, this guy woof. Because one thing that they are is proud. Okay, they even have their own month and flags and shit. So they're proud of what they are and who they are. You know, on those SNY yards, they're not going to be fucked with. Okay, because they came together. When there's a group of guys, it doesn't matter, you know, if they're fucking, they look like Bruce Jenner. None of that matters. People are going to not fuck with them or disturb what they got going on because a lot of people are like, hands-off policy when it comes to them guys. But also because them dudes ain't no punks. You know, from what I hear, there's actually a very well-known individual from the GBGs that was once a part of a big prison gang, right? And he's known to fucking have hands and put hands on people if you test his abilities. So, like I said, man, they're true. It's real. They really are. In fact, I heard, like I said, in the 2000s, they were rocking, man. There was a time period where they were establishing, gaining numbers, and fucking people up. So just like any other of these dropout gangs, and you know it's crazy because a lot of these dropout gangs that were established, once they were established and people started to recognize them, they blew up in numbers. And there's several of them. Some of them started, fell off. There was guys from particular neighborhoods or areas that tried to start their own little shit. It didn't take fire, but there were some groups that did stick. Okay, GBGz was one of them. You know, for people that haven't heard about them or, oh, it's mysterious. I think more so it's mysterious because, you know, you've never seen gangs of gay people. But it's the truth. You know, they really are there. So, I mean, are they like any other gang? I'm sure they have. I can't tell you their politics and what it takes to be one of them other than they probably fucking, their throat muscles are bulging. Whatever. But I do know that they were established in the 2000s. And just like any other group, man, they had good intentions, which was, you know, the progression of protecting their people. Because you got to understand, there's been a lot of younger first-timer, and this is back in the 70s and 80s in prison, these younger inmates that would get locked up, they didn't have anyone, weren't part of gangs, were just regular guys on the streets. Instead of being embraced with canalismo, they got embraced on some other shit. They got R. Kelly. Vatos wanted their honey love, right? All these lifers that were like not going nowhere was like, damn, I'm not going to give him some of that Texas barbecue, you know, and that was that. So these guys were tired of getting beat up on. See, this ain't Alabama. In California, it's not Alabama, where you just fucking become Mindy and Mark the Shark just tears you up all the time and you run around holding his pocket. You know, California, hey, everybody in LA got a little bit of thug in them, right? Pac said it. Everybody in California got a little bit of a gangster, even the gay guys. You know, just because they do extracurricular activity. They like to do fucking yoga, right? Just because they're in there doing mindfulness and meditating together doesn't mean they won't go out in the yard and pick up some metal and handle their business. So for those that asked, are they for reals? Yes, they're for reals, man. Are they a group that you want to be around if you got some problems with them? Probably not. You don't want to be around any man in the California prison system that you have issues with because everybody is willing and capable of picking up metal. And imagine if you have a whole bunch of vatos that are into the Shawshank Redemption running around that want you. Orale, Masterson. They're going to master blast you. They're going to do some other shit. Because from everything that I hear about the GBGs, not only will they put metal in you, but they put some else in you, and that's it. You know, but they are a very, a real group for those that asked, and that's just what it is. Anyways, I hope I was able to give you a rundown. Do I know particular stories about them running up on people? I've heard things, but nothing I could say I've seen, because like I said, I've never functioned by them. You know, only stories that I heard. I remember they did bring a Vato to the oil with a mohawk and some weird shit. And then I did see that MSNBC show with the Vato that he actually had gay boy on his fucking eyes, and I tripped. Like, damn, they're even getting tacas? Imagine their tattoos. You know? A Vato that's just his legs up. That looks like Wes Watson. What the fuck is that? What do you got a portrait of Wes Watson? He's hooping something. You like it? It's weird. But I mean, it looks just like him. You just don't know. Anyways, with that being said, there's the rundown, man. For those of you that want to know, damn, Gunner, you know a lot about the GBGs, Avato said. Actually, I don't, to tell you the truth. I know that they're a real group. They were established around the 2000s, like I said. But as far as do I know them personally? Charlie, man, nothing like that. You know, I don't swing that way, homie. I like tortas. You know, tortas that have long hair and are born that way. That's just it. Anyways, with that being said, I hope that you move smooth with a purpose. Get everything that you want coming. And remember, at the end of the day, it's all about the strive, the struggle, to strive. Don't sleep on anyone in prison or sleep with anyone in prison, right? Don't do that, because when people use bias, oh, man, I ain't scared of them. Them vatos all fucking pitch each other's butts. They're not going to do nothing. Then they're going to have you in the cell choking you. You're going to be like, I'll join you. Yeah, exactly. You don't have no choice. They joined you. They conjoined you. And that's it. That's what it is. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle, and strive for what I truly and honestly believe in, and that's bringing you guys the best entertainment I can, man. Giving you guys the rundown to the best of my capabilities and knowledge. Like I said, man, don't sleep on them dudes. You know, if Danny Masterson goes in there and thinks that they won't do anything to him, he's very mistaken. Everybody in California would do anything to you. And that's real. Bang, bang.